Hello. Yeah, again, once we are back again after having covered Unit 2. Now we are moving into Unit 3. Right? Unit 3 is concerned with MIS growth and development. So, what exactly do we mean by MIS growth and development? By MIS growth and development, it is meant that how MIS has come to dominate standing position in the process of making decisions for the organization. That is how MIS has come up. Growth means once it is conceptualized, that means it is formulated into a system, then how it has grown up, how it is going to take that place, how it is doing all those things, that is how it has come up. Development means what are the technological challenges which are facing the organization, the technological changes which give competitive edge to the organization. All these things are taken care of during the process of growth and development. Right? So yesterday we covered how MIS is playing in various fields, information fields, and how it can be used in the process of integrating the various components of the various components of the organization in terms of providing competitive information, in terms of enabling the organization to do something about their data and to prepare report, take strategic decision, move into the diversification of the business, and right now perform SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis, again we discussed that this is the basic strategic management tool. Right? Strategic management tool means that we are doing something strategically, right? So this is what strategic management tool is all about. It identifies the organizational strengths, the organizational weaknesses, the organizational threats, and the opportunities given to the organization. So again, just a recap of what we have done. So it is helpful in making decisions, it is helpful in preparing the communications part, handling day-to-day operations such as the number of deposits that have been given to the organization, the number of withdrawal, the number of orders placed, the performance reports, and so on and so forth. Right? So this is also again corporate espionage. That means MIS is helpful in preventing the organization, in fact not only the organization, it can be taken in the concept of the things such as preventing the country from the threats posed by enemies and other things. Right? So this is how this thing has come into the picture. Then we saw how MIS is used in various fields. We took up two specific cases: role of MIS in the marketing department, role of MIS in the education department. Whereas in the case of education department, we saw how it can be used in terms of designing of the syllabus, in terms of developing the course contents, in terms of giving the practical exposure to the students so that they are comfortable with. Right? So this is what we have done. So then we just took up two of the questions as a part of the exercise. Now we move on to Unit 3, which is concerned with how MIS has come up as a part of the strategic advantage of the company. So MIS growth and development, that means from how it has conceived to how it is going to play the major role. We will be discussing all those things in this unit. Right? Factors which are responsible for the development of MIS are numerous. That means it's not one single factor which we can identify. There are many other factors which can be taken into consideration. So what does this mean? There is no one factor which we can exactly pinpoint. So now, right now, the factors are divided into two parts which led to the development of MIS. One factor is internal, another factor is external factor. So internal factor means the factors which are within the organization. For example, the office politics. For example, the office wastage that is generated as a part of the manufacturing process. For example, the number of orders placed but then they are not tracked on day to day basis. So all these are internal factors. By external factors, it is meant that what extra, that means which are beyond the organization, which force for the necessity of MIS, right? And this includes globalization, the government policy, the policy level at the world, that means what policies are being discussed and debated in the world, and so many other things are there which are responsible for external things. So when we develop the MIS, we have to take both the internal factors and the external factors, right? So internal factors are more important as compared to external factors, because you have to take the buy-in of your staff member. Buy-in of your staff member means you have to take into confidence the people who are working in the organization, the processes in the organization, and the data which are producing in the organization, because ultimately it is the internal persons who are going to provide you with the data, who are well versed with the functioning of the organization, and these members are liable to give you the toughest time in developing the MIS. So that is why it is always feasible to have internal factors taken into consideration. Coming to the external factors are also very crucial, but then they do play a limited role in terms of developing the MIS from the strategic perspective. This means that this means that you have to take these points, that external points or the factor, while evaluating MIS from the external factors, right? For example, today there is a lot of emphasis on recycling, use of recycled paper bags. This is an external factor, and it is also a very strategic factor, in the sense that unless and until you respond, right, unless and until you respond to the external things, your business might be impacted. You might be fined by the government for not following the environmental norms. Today the focus is more on ESG meaning that environmental sustainability goals and issues which are a part of this. They are very much alive and they need to be taken care of. That is why we have the concept of recycled paper, re-waste paper, reuse paper. All these are that are we are now seeing, these are all forced by external factors, right? They are posed by external factors, and while developing an MIS we have to take these things into consideration, right? Okay, so that is the criteria. While in the case of internal, we have to pull up our processes, we have to identify the gray areas, and MIS is going to help you in identifying the gray area. For example, if two of the team members who do not go very well with each other, but then if they are placed in the same team, they will not perform well, they will be fighting, they will be doing so much things that it will be detrimental to the project, meaning that there would be time loss, there would be effort loss, and there would be many other things that cannot be explained. Similarly, if an employee is frustrated, right, he will not perform well in the project team. He may write some mail to the client, or he may disclose confidential information to the competitors, which will be very disastrous for the business survival. So how an organization will come to know that is through MIS. He is a disgruntled employee, and how he will be doing it, that is what it is there, right? So we have discussed this, and then of course the role of technology is very important. Technology will help the organization in developing the requisite software, the application of the hardware, and many other things which can be taken care of. So it is the technology, and basically it's the information technology that is widely used to develop the MIS. External factors I've already discussed. The case of R, recycle, reduce, rewaste, and reusage, all these things are external factors, and organization must cater to these, because these are driven by government, these are driven at global level, and all these things are taken care of. And how they will come to know, that is through MIS. A typical example is the organization must know what amount of wastage is generated in these processes. For example, if an organization is manufacturing, say, FMCG products, right, say cookies, then in that case definitely some wastage would be generated at each processing cycle. So how they know this amount of wastage is generated? They would come to know through the software which is deployed for MIS. That means which is deployed for estimating, for calculating the wastage generated. How will they come to know? That is the amount of input or the raw material in terms of kgs, the amount of the finished product, that is the cookies, and their weight, and the difference will be the wastage. So that MIS will provide you that difference, and you can calculate what exactly is those things, right? And these are national policies, industry level policy. National policies mean the policies developed by the government, right? And industry level means what the industry norms are there, right? So we move on to next slide. Industry level. So at industry level, the developers looked at the characteristics as degree of diffusion of certain technologies, the availability of external know-how, technology suppliers, degree of innovativeness, the requirement posed by major customers, and external and overall levels of competition and technology sophistication in the industry. So I'll explain this. At the industry level basically mean the level, that is what the industry is doing. So industry means, if say I'm working in a company, say company A manufacturing cookies, there is another company B which is also manufacturing cookies and other bakery items. Similarly, there are hundred of companies who are manufacturing these cookies and hundreds of these bakery items, so that will form an industry, right? Then here, while developing the MIS, the people responsible for it will look at the characteristics as degree of diffusion of certain technologies. Degree of diffusion means how much they are allowing technology to inject into those MIS practices, right? MIS practices means how much the technology is being used to get that base level of data. The know-how means the expertise needed to generate or develop that kind of information, right? That kind of information that can be done, right? So that is what external know-how means. The technology supplier, that means the persons who are supplying the technology, and the amount of innovation that is in there. Innovation means what new things that are going on in the industry. In the industry means if company is doing things in a certain way, so what that same output is generated by another company in a different way. That is what innovation is all about. Then MIS is also impacted by the requirements of the major customer. That means what major customers want. They have imposed their own requirement. Impose their own requirement means they want that I want my packaging to be done in a recycled paper, right? So that is the requirement. Simple example of major customer means, if you can see that Domino's pizza, they put it in a special type of packaging. They give out the specification that boxes, pizza boxes would be of this size, logo would be here, they would be this way, that way, easy to carry, and so many things. So those are the major customers, whoever is making those packets, and they are dictating. So who's dictating? That Domino's is dictating that they want this packet. And the overall levels of competition, that means the amount of competition that is there. The technology sophistication, that means the new technology they have incorporated, all those things they are doing over there. Then the national policies means policy given by the government, right? Because every policy that government forms for the industry affects the organization either directly or indirectly. And if it affects the company, then the sub units, that means the various departments are also get it impacted. For example, you can see that the government has brought in two levels of income tax slab, right? The new slab and the old slab. So this is a national level policy. So all the organizations and the persons working in the organizations are directly impacted, right? Directly impacted means whoever is working, either he has to adopt to the new system of income tax or to remain in the old system of income tax, and so many other things will definitely come into the picture, right? So this is what national policy is, and it is an external factor. External factor means that it is imposed by the company, imposed by the country. So that is what it is there, right? Subsystems means mini systems that are there. Mini system mean, like for example, in an organization you have HR, in an organization you have examination department if you are a student. So these are all subsystem because they have their own processes, they have their own input, they do something to the input to generate the output. For example, the examination system, they have their input means in terms of whether the student is uh, whether the student is of this semester or the next semester or last semester, the number of back papers in it which is he is attempting, whether he has paid his fees, returned the library books, or if there is any no fine on the library books and all those things. So these are the input. If all these things are clear, then only your roll number, which is the output. So these are all specific processes. And what is the subsystem? That is the, and this is the examination system. Similarly, you have library system, right? So internal factors, we move on to the internal factors, right? We move on to the internal factors which affect that they fall into three categories. So now we are moving more into the detail part. The internal factors, they affect the development of MIS. They fall into three categories. First is past experience with the technology. So that means what experience they had with the technology, that is what past experience is all over. That means previous technology they have deployed, whether they found it to be useful or helpful and whatever it is. So if it is not compatible, not suitable, not operationalizable and not adoptable, so all these things are the past experience of technology. For example, if you remember earlier we used to have Windows 95, Windows 7, Windows 10. All these have been phased out because there were some limitation. Even there was one Windows Vista which did not work out very well, and ultimately it was not adopted, and it was very slow, it was very bulky, and then people found it very very difficult to work, and it was shelved. So this was the past technology and the experience with them. So now new version has come and they are adopting it very well, right? Similarly, the another example is, you can see that MS Office is always upgrading. Now we have MS Office 2021, but earlier MS Office 2003, 2007, 10, 13, 16, 19. So all these things were gradually phased out because people found it difficult to get these things with the technology, right? In terms of exposure and organization, learning affects its future in developing technology. So it was all these things because it was really cumbersome, it was not working out very well. So all those things were not done well, right? So that past experience is really one of the most important thing with the technology. And why we use technology, I mentioned in unit 1, technology is widely used because we have large amount of data. Large amount of data mean number of people are very large, number of users are very large. Why users are very large, people are very large? Because it is the age of internet, and when you are operating in internet, you tend to have people or your customers or your clients from across the world, right? They are from across the world, they are not localized, so it multiplies. If you have no internet, maybe you have 100 customers, but with internet you maybe have 1 billion customers, right? And it is growing exponentially. Growing exponentially means if you are offering discount, you are offering better value for money, offering better experiences to them, then those customers are growing and they are generating data. You have to capture that data as a part of your MIS so that you can come out with great scheme, great offering, which will give you value to those things, right? Because it affects your organization. If you do not scale up, your competitor is going to scale up, right? Then organizational characteristics means that the organization culture, every organization has a culture. So that culture, that typical characteristics is going to influence the adoption of MIS. How it is going to influence, that I will just explain. For example, there are organizations where the culture is like a command and control. That means it is the one person who has to take decision, and that type of organizations, that is very difficult to implement MIS, right? For example, if a single owner is there and there are 50 people working, he will just not listen to any new idea. He would be having a closed mind. No new ideas are coming into it, and so many aspects are there, right? So those things are there. That is what it is going to impact the development of the organization, right? So MIS cannot be implemented in those type of organization where you have this kind of a characteristic. On the other hand, if there is an open culture means anyone can walk into COE's of chamber, suggest good ideas, and those ideas are implemented if they are feasible. So there the rate of adoption of MIS is very very fast, and people are open to suggestions. They feel their ideas as strength, and they are more proactive. And on the other hand also, the company's management also invest money, right? They provide money for capital and skill and trained people, and they train people to implement those things, to adopt MIS. They train 10%, this 10% will train another 10%, and so on and so forth. Then this kind of things work out very well. Smaller firms are less affected by organizational inertia. That means if a firm size is very less, maybe 20-30% are working, then in that case it is not an advisable that MIS can be implemented at a large scale, and it would be relatively easy. But again, the decision making authority characteristics, that means who takes the decision, how he takes the decision, whether he involves other person or not, all these things come into the picture, right? So they are the things that come into the picture, and they take those decisions accordingly. Then there are ready to use software and less equipment. For small organization, ready to use software, they can be customized or they can be developed with little amount of money. But for large organization, the things turn out to be very very different, and open culture must be there. Everything should be taken care of, right? Then organizational pursuit strategy. Organizational pursuit strategy means what kind of strategy the organization is pursuing. Strategy means to stay in the market, and to stay in the market you have to beat your competitor. Beat your competitor means you have to come out with better features, better value for money. Then only you can beat the competition, and your customers will really buy those things. An example of pursuit strategy, if you see, it is the case of Maruti Motors, right? You see, Maruti is every say 6 months or so, or within a year, it comes out 2 3 variations of new cars. And why they are coming out? Because customers are adopting them. They provide some new feature which their competitors are not providing, right? So the pursuit strategy is to stay ahead in the market. You have to bring innovation, bring in new products, strong technology, number of authors, and investments should therefore be closely aligned with overall corporate strategy. So this is the strategy I've already discussed, means what you are doing to beat the competition, right? So then again it is some kind of an exercise, but before that we'll just recap what we have done. Right, just recap. MIS growth and development. This means how we can contribute to the development and growth of MIS. Growth of MIS means, because MIS is a system, it is an organizational level initiative. Organizational level initiative means that it is going to be impacting every unit of the organization. Every unit means whether it is HR or whether it is finance, whether it is your personal administration, it is going to impact. So for that you have to design. That means you have to identify, you have to create, you have to design, you have to implement. So this is all the basic. Once it is implemented, you have to see that it is growing means that people are adopting. As new things come into the market or organization revamps its policies, it is continued to be growth, right? And it is going, and not only growing, it is developing also. Developing in the sense that more and more people are adopting, and not only that, it is also scaling up in the sense that new technology is coming up, so that old system is being transported or transshipped to the new system. Global policies which are happening, they are being adopted and developed in the MIS part, right? So there are factors which contribute to the growth and development, and there are many, but then these are being classified in internal and external factors, right? Internal factors means that the policies, the culture, the adoption, the way people look at MIA. That means all those people who are working in the organization, right? Whether they are working directly or indirectly, that MIS is going to be the crucial part. External factors is the factors which are at the global level. Global level means, right? Global level means that things which are coming out from external body, like WHO, that means World Health Organization, right? That is one aspect. Not only World Health Organization, there are other organizations like International Monetary Fund, then G20 Summit. All these things are impacting, yes, they are impacting the development of MIS. Why they are impacting the development of MIS? Because they are ultimately impacting the product which the organization is developing, right? Impacting the product which the organization is developing, right? A typical example of external factors is recycle, reuse, re-waste, and so many things. Reduce the wastage and put it as a part of those things, right? Then at industry level, that means what the industry is following, those factors are also doing those same things, right? And which includes national policies, other things are there, right? Then internal factors, past experience with technology, that means what was the experience with the technology, organizational characteristics, that means what exactly the organization was looking into it, all those things are taken care of, right? When what strategy, this is most important. There might be chances that you have a well MIS in place, everything is there, just world class data, world class report and what not, but then the management is not interested because the strategy they are adopting is totally different. They might want to go into different direction which they have not communicated, or they have some other things in mind. All these things are a part of the pursued strategy, right? They are all the part of the pursuit strategy which they are doing, and so many things they take into consideration, right? So some little bit of exercise in MIS. Two questions like we had before. Which of the following is true for MIS growth? It uses competition, it uses globalization, it uses strategic thinking, all of the above. Right? What is the answer? Just think about it. The next question is, which is not true? It is an intelligent software, business oriented. Both of these are not true, both of these are true. Just think about it. I am giving you 2 minutes. Think. Yes, did you get the answer for the first one? Write it down in the chat box. Right? So in the first case it is all of the above because it is true. It uses competition. You have the data pertaining to the competition. It uses globalization. So all those things which are happening as a part of the globalization, it is using those things. It uses strategic thinking. Again, it is all strategy driven and all of the above. Which is not true for MIS. It is an intelligent software. It is a business oriented software. So answer to this, both of these are not true. Intelligent software basically means the software which can take decisions on its own, like robots. Robot is an intelligent software because it takes decision based on the programming which is there. Like Alexa, the Google Assistant, these are all intelligent products because they use that software which helps them to take decisions on their own, of course under the supervision of human beings. If this is not possible, then they will take over the human. So it is not an intelligent software, it cannot take decision, rather the fact is it provides assistance to the things, right? So we stop over here, we have covered, and then we will move on to something